What text have we got on the board? 11. Oh yeah. Yep. Okay. Can we close the door there, please? Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjabi Hari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjabi Hari. Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari. Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari. Yasoda Nandana Braja Janarandana. Yasoda Nandana Braja Janarandana. Jamuna Tira Vana Chari. Jamuna Tira Vanachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjabi Hari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjabi Hari. Madhava Kunjabi. Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari. Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari. Yasoda Nandana Braja Janarandana. Yasoda Nandana Braja Janarandana. Jamuna Tira Vanachari. Jamuna Tira Vanachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Vishnupada Paramahamsa Parivajikacharya. Asto Tarasati Śrīmad, His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj Srila Prabhupada ki. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur ki. Vamsik Ho Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Sivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. Sri Sri Radha Krishna Gopinatha Shama Kunda Radha Kunda Giri Gomadana ki. Sri Vrindavan Dham ki. Sri Mayapur Navadvip Dham ki. Sri Purushottam Chitra ki. Sri Ganga Mai ki jai. Sri Jamuna Mai ki jai. Bhakti Devi ji ki jai. Tulsi Devi Maharani ki jai. Harinam Sankirtana ki jai. Nitai Gaura Brahmanandi. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Sri Guru and Garanga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Namo Mishpadaya Krishna Stabile Smati Parijan Prabhu Janamane. Namo Mishpadaya Krishna Stabile Smati Bhaktivedanta Swami Janamane. Namaste Saraswati Devi Guruvani Pajana Nivasesha Nivani Pasha. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. We're reading from Śrīmad Bhāgavatam, Canto 9, Liberation, Chapter 13, the Dynasty of Maharaj Nimi, text number 11. So what we've got on the board? 11? 11. Deva Uchahu. You need to repeat after me, okay? Deva Uchahu. Videha Ushyatam Kamam. Lochaneshu Sharirinam. Unmeshanani Meshabhyam. Lakshito Dhyatma Samstitaha. Deva Uchaho. Videha Ushyatam Kamam. Lochaneshu Sharirinam. Unmeshanani Meshabhyam. Lakshito Dhyatma Samstitaha. Deva Uchahu. Videhas Ushyatam Kamam. Lochaneshu Sharirinam. Unmeshanani Meshabhyam. Lakshito Dhyatma Samstitaha. Deva Uchahu. Videha Ushyatam Kamam. Lochaneshu Sharirinam. Unmeshanani Meshabhyam. Lakshito Dhyatma Samstitaha. Deva Uchahu. Videha Ushyatam Kamam. Lochaneshu sharirinam unmeshanani meshabhyam lakshido jatma samstitaha deva uchuhu videha usyatam kamam lochaneshu sharirinam unmeshanani meshabhyam lakshito dyatman samstitaha deva uchuhu videha usyatam kamam lochaneshu sharirinam unmeshanani meshabhyam lakshito dyatma samstitaha deva uchuhu. The demigod said, Videha, without any material body, Usyatam, you live, Kamam, as you like, Lochaneshu, in the vision, Sharirinam, of those who have material bodies, Unmeshanani meshabhyam, become manifest and unmanifest as you desire. Lakshitaha, being seen. Adhyatma samstitaha, situated in a spiritual body. The demigod said, let Maharaj Nimi live without a material body. Let him live in a spiritual body as a personal associate of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And, according to his desire, let him be manifest or unmanifest to common materially embodied people. Purport, the demigods wanted Maharaj Nimi to come to life. But Maharaj Nimi did not want to accept another material body. Under the circumstances, the demigods, having been requested by the saintly persons, gave him the benediction that he would be able to stay in his spiritual body. There are two kinds of spiritual bodies, as generally understood by common men. The term spiritual body is sometimes taken to refer to a ghostly body. An impious man who dies after sinful activities is sometimes condemned so that he cannot possess a gross material body of 5 material elements, but must live in a subtle body of mind, intelligence and ego. However, as explained in Bhagavad Gita, devotees can give up the material body and attain a spiritual body free from all material tinges, gross and subtle. Chaktavate hampuna janma nayati mamiti sorjuna. Thus, the demigods gave King Nimi the benediction that he would be able to stay in a purely spiritual body, free from all gross and subtle material contamination. The Supreme Personality of Godhead can be seen or unseen according to his own transcendental desire. Similarly, a devotee, being Jivan Mukta, can be seen or not as he chooses. As stated in Bhagavad Gita, Naham Prakasha Sarvasya Yogamaya Samabritaha. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, is not manifest to everyone and anyone. To the common man, he is unseen. Atasi Krishna namadi na bhaved grayam indriyai. Krishna and his name, fame, qualities, and paraphernalia cannot be materially understood. Unless one is advanced in spiritual life, seva mukhe hijivado, one cannot see Krishna. Therefore, the ability to see Krishna depends on Krishna's mercy. The same privilege of being seen or unseen according to one's own desire was given to Maharaj Nimi. Thus he lived in his original spiritual body as an associate of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Oh, excuse me. Om Jnana Timirandasya Gananjana Salakaya Chakshurun Militam Jena Tasmaye Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Jena Bhutale Svayam Rupa Kada Mahiyam Dadati Svabha Padantikam Mukam Karoti Vachalam Pangum Langayate Garim Yat Kripatamaham Bande Shri Gurum Dinatavinam. Oops, wrong way. Let's go back. Okay. Could you do me a favour and get a tissue or two for me, please? Oh. So, Maharaj Nimi is obviously a very special person. He's also a very respected and beloved king, emperor, right? And also a very advanced devotee. And very kind of unusual circumstances here, because Maharaj Nimi was cursed by Vasishtha to die, right? To leave his body. And Nimi also cursed Vasishtha, his guru, to die, and he also left his body. Right? Now, ordinarily, if you're being cursed by your guru and you're counter-cursing your guru, that would be considered very inauspicious. Right? But or shall we say yet, because Maharaj Nimi was so dear to his dependents, to his kingdom, to the citizens, despite the fact that he'd been cursed to die, the citizens kept his body. Well, and preserved it. With the goal that he could be brought back to life. Right? This is an art or a science that has been lost. Right? So after the end of the Yuga, or a certain point in time, it mentions a Yuga there, Satra Yuga, but that's not immediately clear how long that is. But so after some time, the demigods wanted to bring Maharaj Nimi back to life. But what did Maharaj Nimi say? No. No, I don't want to be brought back to life. And the indication here is that Maharaj Nimi had resumed, or he'd re-entered he'd been liberated. From the spiritual perspective, not that he just merged with everything, but he was situated in his original spiritual identity. Prabhupada mentions Jivan Mukta, right? Fully liberated living entity. So Prabhupada mentions here that there are two notions or two ideas of a spiritual body, right? Spiritual body. And the first one is it's a misconception of a spiritual body, and that is that one's body is subtle, right? But subtle still on the gross, or shall we say, on the subtle material platform. Right? We've all got a body. Right? Everybody got a body? Yep. Pinch yourself, and then you'll know. Right? Yep, got a body. But that body is made up of two types of energy. Right? Two types of energy. There's one which is immediately perceivable by the gross senses. It can be seen. It can be heard. It can be touched. It can be smelt. Right? That's a gross material body. But there's also the subtle body, right? The mind. You can't see or smell or touch the mind, but you all know that we've got one, right? We perceive the state of the subtle body by the behaviour of the gross external, the gross material body, effectively. So, if you're looking a bit down, right, we can sense the state of the subtle body. Or if we're smiling and happy, then we get another indication of what's going on in the subtle body. You can't see it, you can't smell it, can't touch it, but we know that it exists. Right? Everybody got a mind? Yeah. Does it give you trouble sometimes? All the time. Oh, ouch. Yeah. And the subtle body is made up of the mind, the intelligence, and what's called the ahankara, the false ego, the false identification with the material body as being the self. Right? So we've got the gross manifestation of the material body and the subtle manifestation of the material body. Huh? Mind, intelligence. Intelligence is the ability to discriminate one thing from another. And false ego, ahankara, the false identification with the material body as the self. So Prabhupada makes the point that some people think that existence purely on the subtle material platform, because it's not perceivable by the material senses, is a spiritual form, right? Because it's subtle, beyond the material. And so, and in the Vedic literature it's described that the form of a ghost, of ghosts, is a manifestation of that of a living entity trapped in a body that is subtle, but subtle material energy, not purely spiritual energy. Right? That make sense? Yeah. Whereas our body is considered, according to the Vedic, according to the Bhagavat purview, worldview, right? That to take birth in a body that hasn't got a gross aspect to it, but is purely, or can't even say purely, but is manifest on the subtle material level, that's considered very inauspicious. Right? It's not a good birth to have to take birth in the form of a subtle body, subtle material body, right? So, Maharaj Nimi, however, is situated in a purely spiritual, not that subtle material body, but a purely spiritual body. So there's the material body that you and I have, which is made up of gross elements, right? In the Bhagavad Gita it's described earth, water, fire, ether, air. Yes, air. Thank you. So what's that? Earth, water, fire, air, ether. Yeah. The space, if you like. Air is or ether is the space within which we all exist. Also, even though it's the most subtle of all of the gross material elements, it still can be perceived by the senses, measured. Right? So, and then there's the subtle, as I said, and then beyond that, the element which makes it all work is the spirit. The jivatma, right? The jiva, the spirit soul, which makes everything work. Without the presence of the soul within the body, even if you can, if a child is stillborn, heaven forbid, right? But sometimes it happens that a child is born but not alive. Right? So it's got all the gross features, but none of the subtle features, and most importantly, the presence of the soul is absent. Right? And so what happens? What have you got? What have you got? What have you got? Huh? Well, you've got something. Got a dead body. Got a dead body. Without the presence of the soul must have been present for some period of time, but within the womb, departed. It's a tragedy, that a child is stillborn. But it does happen. Why we have the term stillborn. Which illustrates the importance of the soul. No soul, no nothing. And Krishna explains in the Bhagavad Gita, that for the body, there's a beginning, right? Adi, then madhya, middle, and then antya, end, right? Beginning, middle, and an end. All bodies are like that. So sometimes, and usually what happens is we are born, and that's not really the beginning of the body when we're born. The beginning of the body is at the conception, right? That's when the spirit soul enters into the womb of the mother at conception. So, and then we're born, and then after that we live for some time, and eventually we leave. That's the standard. But that the presence or the growth, what is it? There's manifestation, there's growth, there's maintenance, there's dwindling, and then eventually gone, right? 6 stages that we go through. And that's all occurring with the presence of the soul in the body over time until Tehantara, off we go. Finish of the body means the spirit soul is left. Yeah. And then the material elements, both subtle and gross, cease to function or manifest in the form of that body, this body or whatever body. Right. So Maharaj Nimi had left his material body, cursed by his guru. It's interesting circumstances, generally not recommended, that you leave your body after being cursed by your guru. But nevertheless, that's what took place, right? And because Maharaj Nimi was such an exalted character, he was reinstated in his original spiritual position. Right? But the demigods wanted him to come back. And they'd kept his body. His body had been preserved. And according to science, that's been forgotten, they would churn his body and get him to come back to life again. But he said, no. I want to remain in my spiritual form. Very advanced. Very advanced. And so the demigods are here are saying, Deva Uchuhu. Right? Deva Uchuhu. Videha. Videha. Deha means body, and videha means without material body, right? This means without a material body, so not without a body entirely. Right? And Prabhupada's explaining having a spiritual body, but not that subtle body of a ghost, but rather the original spiritual identity. As you like, kamam, if it's your desire. If it's your desire, you can have no body, no material body anyway, right? And you can be seen or not seen, as you like. You can be seen or not seen. So, in the second part of the purport, Srila Prabhupada explains how Krishna, and because Maharaj Nimi is on that same spiritual platform, can be seen or not seen, depending on his desire. Right? And Prabhupada quotes Naham prakasha sarvasya yogamaya samavritaha. Yeah. He is not manifest to everyone and anyone. Huh? Just like when we come for greeting the deity, when we come to see the deities in the temple, we see Krishna. Huh? But a materialistic person comes and just sees matter, metal, wood, stone, and decries the existence of the personality of Godhead. But for the devotees, the manifestation of the form of Krishna in the Achamurti, right? It's a fully manifest, fully powerful, potent form of God, appreciated and realized and observed by the devotees. Materialistic persons can't see Krishna in the form of the Archamurti, no? Just material elements. But for a devotee, they see Krishna personally within the form of the deity. Well, so Krishna is perceivable or not, depending on the qualification of the viewer, right? And so Prabhupada then says, how does one get the qualification to see Krishna, to see God? How do you get the qualification? Yeah, you need to take prasadam, right? Atasi Krishna namade na bhaved grayam indriyai. Which begins with, what is it? The tongue. Yeah, or the tongue. Chanting Hare Krishna or honouring prasadam. You have to use the tongue. So anyway, there is a means by which one can perceive, and similarly also then perceive the qualifications of Maharaj Nimi. Right? Same qualifications that are needed to see Krishna are also needed to see the devotees and appreciate and value the association of the devotees. Well, and why the association of the devotees is so important? Because Yasya prasadat bhagavat prasado yasya prasada nagati kutopi. If one wants to get the vision of Krishna, who wants to be engaged in devotional service, one has to get the mercy of the devotees. Right? Without the mercy of the devotees, understanding Krishna is practically impossible. Yeah. And with the association of devotees, then one gets the opportunity to engage in service. Atasi Krishna namadi na bhavegrayam indriyai. Seva mukhi jiva ado, jiva ado. Jiva, that's the tongue. Begins with the tongue. Jiva ado. Even when we're hearing from the devotees, where's the sound vibration coming from? Where's the sound vibration coming from? Somebody's tongue. Yeah. So it's very interesting. You know, the first item in devotional service is Shravanam, hearing. But even in hearing, somebody's talking. Right? And if they're talking, somebody's tongue is wagging, right? Or at least, maybe not wagging. Because what a devotee says is not tongue wagging. Tongue wagging is something else. So Prabhupada says here, unless one is advanced in spiritual life, seva mukke hijivado. One cannot see Krishna. Very interesting. Right? Therefore, the ability to see Krishna depends on Krishna's mercy. Right? And of course, as I explained, the ability to get Krishna's mercy is dependent on getting the devotees' mercy, which Maharaj Nimi undoubtedly had. And Maharaj Nimi was given this benediction, that like Krishna, he could be seen or not seen. In other words, in a purely spiritual form, that has the blessing or the power to be visible or not. Very powerful. Very attractive. You know, to be invisible, good idea sometimes, huh? Did you ever have the desire to be invisible? Especially after you did something pretty stupid. Let me be invisible. Huh? So Maharaj Nimi had that power. Not that he would do nonsense, by the way, but yeah. So, very interesting that the demigods wanted to bring Maharaj Nimi back to life. They didn't want it. Didn't want it. No thanks. So he's a Jivan Mukta, fully liberated, transcendental person, and could appear or disappear at will. Even though the demigods knew the science of how to bring a person back to life if their body had been properly preserved. Which is very interesting. We see in the characteristics of the Jivan Mukta the desire to be fully engaged in Krishna's service, but not necessarily not interested in anything material activities. Well, and this is the measure of a jivan mukta. What makes a jivan mukta is that even though even if a devotee may appear in a material body, right, and engaged in apparently material activities, they're not. When Srila Prabhupada was living in Vrindavan, he himself identified the irony of his book publishing, right? His book publication. And so Prabhupada was going to the printers, going to the paper manufacturer or the paper wholesalers, right, the people who are selling the paper. He was going to the binders, right? He would then have his books published, but it was very difficult for Prabhupada to do that because he didn't have any money, right? And little money to print books, but they had a system in those days where the printer would print a book for you, and then you had to pay for a certain number of copies, right? And they would give them to you, but they'd keep the rest. Keep the rest. They wouldn't hand over everything. And so then Prabhupada got 100 copies of the Bhagavatam, and so then what did he do? He went out and sell it. And Prabhupada himself made the statement, it's ironical, I'm just behaving like a materialist. Right? Going to get the paper, typing and creating the manuscript, then having it typeset and printed and bound and then as soon as he had a volume, what did he have to do? He had to go and sell it. And his residence was the Radha Damodar temple in Vrindavan. That was his residence. But if he wanted to print books and if he wanted to sell books, where did he have to go? He had to go to Delhi. He had to go to Mumbai. He had to go to various places, and then he's just acting like a salesman. So, ostensibly, not much different to other people engaging in business, right? Get some product or commodity, package it, market it, get money. Sound familiar? Yeah. Yeah. A pukka businessman, right? And Prabhupada was. But what was his business? The business was to distribute the knowledge of the Śrīmad Bhāgavatam, right? Effectively, the knowledge of pure devotional service. So it wasn't just some mundane literature, but literature of purely focused on transcendence. And so Prabhupada spent all of his waking hours, apart from his bhajan, writing, editing, publishing And then after publishing, he got 100 books that he was able to get enough money together to pay. And Prabhupada was selling the Bhagavatams in those days, a volume, 16 rupees. What's 16 rupees worth today? How much is a rupee worth in Aussie dollars? Huh? $1 is 65 rupees. 55. Yeah, 55. So what's 16 rupees in Aussie dollars? Huh? 35 cents. Yes. Well, ouch. And sometimes Prabhupada would, he would find, somebody would buy 100 library, or they would buy 100 sets. So it's 160 rupees for the first volume, right? But Prabhupada envisaged 60 volume set of books. Right? Pretty amazing. So Prabhupada worked really hard just to publish, to write, then to publish, and then sell, effectively. He was the author, the publisher, and the salesman. Pretty amazing. And incredibly hard work too, for that matter. And even though Prabhupada was recognized by scholarly and even by the leaders of society in India, he still wasn't taken that seriously. Right? Not that he was having a huge impact. He wasn't. So he decided, eventually, he decided, let me go to New York. Right? Let me go to New York. And that was also a struggle. It's interesting how it came that Prabhupada left India. He had a casual conversation with Mr. Agarwal, wasn't it? Yeah. Bharadwaj Agarwal, was it? And his son was Gopal, right? But he would tell everybody, I'm going to go to the West to preach. And people were struck by the quaintness, if you like, of Prabhupada's presentation. That he was an old man, and we can see Srila Prabhupada it's not like he's a giant. I always thought that Prabhupada was a giant, and when I saw his murti, I thought he's just a little fellow. Diminutive, small, in other words. But what struck people was Prabhupada's determination and his focus. Right? And so he published his first volume of the Bhagavatam, and then immediately started writing the second volume. Right? I'm working on getting the manuscript ready, but not having enough money to buy the first volume fully. Huh? Just incredible. When you think about it, Prabhupada had very little, but he exemplified the what do you call it? I don't quite get this, but there's a term called jugad, right? Jugad? Huh? Jugad. Jugad, yeah, which means stick at it, right? Do it by any means. Right? Yeah. Prabhupada exemplified that mood. There's that time when Prabhupada was giving a lecture in Vrindavan in Kartik, I think it was Kartik, or it might have been a Pandal program, and the microphone was broken, the microphone stand and the holder was broken. So Prabhupada asked one of his devotees, give me your Brahman thread. And then he tied it up. So took the devotee's Brahman thread, tied it up. Right? So Prabhupada epitomised this mood where others would have been, completely destroyed by all of the challenges that he faced. Right? And he wasn't selling very many books. He wasn't able to sell. The initial publication of the first volume, he sold a few hundred copies, but then after that, it just petered. It was just hard work, right? But in the meantime, was publishing the second. And the printer and the people that he was working with publishing, they say how insistent Prabhupada was on getting things done. What? You haven't? It's not ready yet? He couldn't pay for it, but still push, right? But for Krishna, see, the thing is, it's not a material activity. Right? Not a material activity. Purely, it's Jivan Mukta. Not, even though it appears to be like the activities of any other bookseller, publisher, writer, right? Although it is interesting, there's always, very often an altruistic element of a writer's motivation to get a message out there, to get a message across. But of course, they're always looking to sell copies of their books. So Prabhupada was doing the same thing, but of course Prabhupada's mission was to give everybody the pure transcendental message of the Śrīmad Bhāgavatam, of Vyasadev's message, of Sukadeva Goswami's message, the message of the Parampara, the message of pure devotional service, effectively. That's what the Bhagavatam's all about, right? So even though Prabhupada looks like may, and even he himself says, externally appear like that of a materialistic person, actually not. Purely spiritual activity, which is the measure of a Jivan Mukta, right? And the materialistic people can't understand the difference between his activity and the activity, the pure activity of transcendence. Right? So, as a consequence of a chance meeting with Mr. Agarwal, Senior, who Prabhupada, said, can you get me a sponsorship to go to America? And he asked his son to do the needful. And he'd had that request more than once before, and he'd done the papers and everything, but nobody ever came. So he's probably thinking, yeah, okay, I'll do it for my dad. Well, if your father asked you to do something, would you do it? Huh? Could not do it, right? Yeah. So he did it, and then lo and behold, Prabhupada got an invitation from the Foreign Affairs, or I'm not sure exactly who it was, what we would call Foreign Affairs, I suppose, or DFAT. IMI, for us it's IMI, right? He got a letter saying, we approve, no, your visa, effectively, that's what it would have been, right? Or at least a preliminary step to getting a visa was approved. And of course, then Prabhupada had to get his passport, had to get a visa, get a clearance, P form, right? A clearance. When he first went for his P form, the gentleman that he applied for said, "You're too old. Go away." Prabhupada said, "You can't do that." More or less. No, this is wrong. So then he went to the higher up and spoke to the boss. And then the boss said, "Don't worry, I've approved it." Right. So, in many respects, just incredible what Prabhupada did prior to his leaving. He went to Srimati Maharaji, and Srimati Maharaji bought books from him because it was known by the Gaudiya Mat members that Srimati Maharaji was very favourable, right? And so she eventually ended up giving Prabhupada the money to print the second and third volume of the Bhagavatam, right? After all that struggle, she eventually said, "Okay, and she had Prabhupada. There was one occasion where Prabhupada was in Mumbai, where Prabhupada had gone to sell his books, effectively, right? Srimati Maharaji invited Prabhupada to come and speak to Bhagavad, because she was favourable to the Vaishnavas, to the Gaudiya Mat. So she invited Prabhupada to come and speak. He was staying actually at the Scindia colony. Right? You can imagine how wealthy Srimati Maharaji must have been, right? They had their own place, and that's where the employees lived, right? So it must be pretty well off. And Prabhupada was staying there in an apartment, no furniture, just his trunk, and that's about it. His trunk and his typewriter, or writing, his. So Srimati Maharaji had Prabhupada come and speak on the Bhagavatam. She liked to hear from the devotees. She was a devotee, effectively, right? But then when Prabhupada said, "Please give me a ticket," she said, "No, you're too old, you'll die." In fact, she said to him, "All of my officers say you're going to America to die." But eventually he persisted, and she said, and so she chose a boat, and specifically a captain who would understand Prabhupada's needs as an elderly sannyasi, and told him, make sure there's plenty of fruit and veg for the Swami. Pretty amazing when you think about it. So, incredible austerity when you think about it. The effort that Srila Prabhupada put in those years, where he was ostensibly, from the external point of view, engaging in the pounds, shillings and pence work of a book salesman, right? Was actually deeply absorbed in the mission and the order, the Gaudiya mission, if you like, or the broader Chaitanya Vaishnava vision, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's vision. Right? What is it? Priti Viti? I can't remember that Bengali. Anyway, the chanting of Hare Krishna will be heard all over the world, right? In every town and village, pretty much, right? So Prabhupada was meditating on that, but the very specifics of the instruction that he'd received from his Guru Maharaj, right? He received that instruction when he was 23 years old, wasn't it? 23? He wasn't able to do it until he was 69. Right? Incredible. Prabhupada took the order of his guru to heart, but he received that order at a time when he just got married. Right? So he had the responsibility of looking after his family and his business and so forth. So it wasn't until 69. But in all of that time, traveling, writing in Radha Damodar, staying in Chippiwada Temple in Delhi, and going backwards and forwards between the printer and the binder and the paper wallas, then selling the books, Delhi, going to Mumbai also, all that time, Srila Prabhupada was meditating on the order of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur and meditating on taking his books to America, effectively. Jivan Mukta. So that's why, why there's so much emphasis within our ISKCON community on book distribution. Why so much emphasis on book distribution? Because Prabhupada would say, if somebody pays 16 rupees for a book, they'll look at it. Well, I guess 16 rupees in 1958, 59, 60, 1960. 16 rupees was a fair bit of money, huh? We wouldn't know. 16 rupees today is nothing. But why book distribution is so important? Because it's not, people think, oh, you're just selling something. But no, it's an activity of transcendence in the knowledge that's contained within the Bhagavad Gita and within the Śrīmad Bhāgavatam, and it will change people's lives. That's what the Bhagavatam says. It will bring about a revolution in the world, a change of consciousness, a change of focus, so that one's activities cease to be material, either gross or subtle, as we mentioned before, but one is engaged in activities on the same level as Maharaj Nimi, right? Purely spiritual identification and engagement. So the day after Balaram Purnima is a special occasion because this is the day that Srila Prabhupada left Calcutta on the Jaladuta. Right, this is the day that he left to go to America. And a day upon which we can meditate on the sacrifice that Srila Prabhupada made, although actually, not a sacrifice. For him it wasn't a sacrifice, right? We think, oh, what a big sacrifice. But Prabhupada wasn't thinking, oh, I'm sacrificing so much. It was just what he did. Right? It was he was inspired to, and the members, the people who lived in Srimati Maharaj's colony, the Scindia colony, they said they would see Prabhupada come home exhausted, right? After a day of book distribution in Mumbai. He'd come home exhausted and he would sit for some time, right? Rest, he would be resting basically. But then after he'd had a rest, despite the difficulties of everything that he'd done, chanting, typing, he's back into doing it again. And that was Prabhupada's meditation for quite some time, deep meditation for quite some time, and which he continued all throughout the rest of his life in the translation of the Śrīmad Bhāgavatam. Well, and interspersed with the teachings of Lord Chaitanya, the Chaitanya Charitamrita, so many other books. Bhakti Rasamrita's Nectar of Devotion. Prabhupada kept up that meditation of translation, editing, publishing, printing. Publishing entails all of the activities. Editing and the like, proofreading. That was another thing that Prabhupada was doing. They would print the proofs, Prabhupada would then check them, go back with corrections, they'd do another proof, then he'd read them again, proof them. Publishing a book is not an easy task. Is that right, Gopa? Painstaking, got to keep an eye, and there's mistakes. Oh no, there's a mistake. Even, is there any mistakes in that book that you did? You probably could find at least one error. It'd be surprising if you couldn't. There'll be errors, right? That's why publishing, people say, why are you changing the books? Because publishing requires getting rid of the errors. And if you're publishing many, many books, have a guess what? What does that mean? Many errors. Even when you've gone through it and you think, oh no, we got rid of the errors. Then you go back. Like often you read the Bhagavatam and you find there's a word missing. Right? So what do? Leave it? No. Publishing means reprinting, get rid of the errors. That's what it means. Hard work, not easy. So that was Prabhupada's life. And see, the interesting thing was, that was Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur's life work. Right? Even Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur said about the Bagh Bazaar temple, we'd be better off if we tore down the marble and sold it. Right? So Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur emphasised book publishing over temple construction. Right? Because the most important element of a temple is what? What do you think? What do you think is the most important element of a temple? Devotees. Very good. Yes, devotees are most important. And Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur was very disturbed when his disciples were squabbling over who would have what room in the Bagh Bazaar. See, the Bagh Bazaar temple is not far from the Uttadanga Junction Road temple. But that temple was a rented premises and not very big. Not a very big place. But that's where the Gaudiya Math started. But later on, the Bhagavad temple was given, and there was a big, temple built there. But Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur was dismayed when he saw his senior disciples squabbling over the facilities. So he told Prabhupada, if ever you get money, what did he say? Build temples? No, he didn't. He said, if ever you get money, print books. Why? Because people are more important than just a building. And why have buildings if people squabble over them? That's not very spiritual, is it? That's not the example that's demonstrated by Maharaj Nimi, and certainly not the example that was demonstrated by Srila Prabhupada or Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. So, Prabhupada stuck at that book distribution till the end. Well, not that there's an end. There's no end for our Vaishnavas. What's at the beginning? What's the quotation at the beginning of the Bhagavatam? Right at the beginning of the Bhagavatam, what does Prabhupada say? Anybody know? Hands up if you've read the Bhagavatam. Okay, then you must have read the first words. Well, I hope you have. If not, go back and have a look. He lives forever by his divine instructions, and the follower lives with him. That's right. That's the first instruction of the Bhagavatam. Yeah. Okay, does anybody have any comments or questions? Sibya. You can talk without the microphone, I think.
You mentioned how without the soul, the body is useless.
Yes. Or, yeah.
So I wanted to ask, sometimes when they're trying to transplant organs into some people, they sometimes use like a dead body. So does that mean like a dead body can also be...
So not entirely useless, so long as... But see, it's interesting, you see, I was reading an article the other day in the New York Times. There are protocols that are needed to be followed in order to ensure that organ transplants, right, can be successful. And so there's a fine line between a dead person and a person who's about to die, because, the organs need to be taken out while the person's or just left, right? And that can give rise to some very unethical behaviour. In fact, there are stories of people who have woken up or been very disturbed because their organs were being extracted while they're still alive, although it was thought they were dead, right? So, ouch. Sometimes organs can be taken from a body that's brain dead or But yeah, challenging, right? Challenging, very challenging, if it's not done properly or carefully. So that's an interesting question, that, you know, is a dead body useful? No. Hare Krishna. What a world we live in, huh? Very challenging. And challenging, you know, for everybody really, because challenging for the person who's leaving the body, but who's residing in a body that's unlivable, effectively, right? Brain dead or whatever, serious injuries, and so can't function, and are basically being kept alive by machine, right? The challenge for the family of the departing, departed or departing, and the challenges for the recipient. Yeah. Hare Krishna. And here we're seeing in the pages of the Bhagavatam that the demigods and others knew the techniques by which they could preserve the body of someone, right, and then bring them back to life later on. That's what they wanted to do with Maharaj. That's kind of the irony of the story, or the humour of the story, right? They're saying, Maharaj Nimi, we want you to come back to life. And Maharaj Nimi is saying, no, leave me alone, I don't want to. Because he's such an advanced transcendentalist. Yeah. Okay. Hare Krishna, Contra Śrīmad Bhāgavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Gaura Bhaktivedanta ki jai. Hare Krishna. Okay. THO e-commerce.